Hi kids. Today we're going to be talking about dinosaurs. It's a dinosaurus line! Da 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 da!
Was that Mrs. Doubtfire?
I eat wood, dinna 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 din. It tastes good, dinna 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 din. No meat, big feet. I've always liked playing with food and dinosaurs. So much that I've made chocolate dinosaur skeletons. I even made a dinosaur out of gingerbread one time, because gingerbread houses just don't do it for me. So when I imagine dinosaur chicken nuggets, this is not what comes to mind. These would be so much cooler if they were bigger, if they were three-dimensional, if they actually looked like dinosaurs. Impossible, some say. A manager of innovation at Purdue Farms claims we could never make chicken nuggets with horns coming out of its head. Well, maybe they can't, but as has been said, life finds a way. So here's how it works. Start with a bunch of ground chicken meat and mold it into shapes on baking sheets. I'd make most of the torso, then the legs and the head pieces separately. When the shape was right, I put them into the freezer to set up firm. Once frozen, I could then use more chicken to fill out the shapes of the torso and attach the legs and freeze again to fuse them together. And it worked pretty well. For smaller pieces, I was even able to use the same freezing spray that I use for chocolate to help them set up faster. I made a T-Rex, a Brachiosaurus, a Triceratops head, and a naked Stegosaurus without the plates on its back. These were so big, I knew there was a chance they wouldn't be able to stand and support their own weight once cooked, but I was so preoccupied with whether or not I could, I didn't stop to think if I should. The neck of the Brachiosaurus was pretty tricky. I put the torso and legs together and put that in the freezer standing upright, put fresh chicken to attach the neck and carefully lean it against the wall of the freezer. It was definitely a challenge to attach the T-Rex's legs in a way that was balanced. I figured the tail would provide extra support, so it ended up in this dramatic roaring pose, which is pretty cool. I was going to deep fry these to cook them. I usually do deep frying in this 8-quart pot, but that wasn't going to be nearly big enough, so I had to get an extra large pot. Spared no expense. I set up a cooking party over at my friend's house. He also very much appreciates nerdy dinosaur things, obviously, and he's a fellow foodie. He posts recipe videos on TikTok. I knew that he, and especially his dino crazy kid Isaac, would like these.
There's a nobody Triceratops!
After dredging with some flour, into the pot. I added some big jars full of flour into the sides of the pot to raise the oil level and cover it entirely. I let it cook for about 20 minutes. It takes a while to cook all the way through. The moment of truth. Definitely too heavy to stand on its own. Disappointing, but not that surprising. The Triceratops head came out okay.
With horns intact, too. Little crooked, but horns intact.
But the Stegosaurus body was definitely too heavy and was still a bit undercooked in the middle. But adding Doritos for the plates along the spine was a nice touch.
That's brilliant.
I had high hopes for the Brachiosaurus, but the neck flopped over halfway through the frying, and like the others, it was just way too big.
He's just sitting. He's gonna take a poop.
While they weren't a complete success, Isaac really liked them, and that's what really matters.
Is that a good T-Rex? Good call.
For my next attempt, I'd have to make them smaller. A few days later, I made a Brachiosaurus and T-Rex at much more manageable sizes. I added more meat to the T-Rex's legs to make them stronger. I thought that would be enough, but after frying, it still couldn't stand up. As the feet cook and get soft, they get deformed by the torso weighing down on them. Turns out it takes a lot of effort to keep my meat firm and standing upright. But I put the Brachiosaurus in sideways for frying to be completely covered, to give the legs a chance to firm up without having to support weight, and that was a good idea. The final result stood on its own. But I still really wanted the T-Rex to work, so I gave it one more try. I focused on keeping the torso slim, the feet bigger and wider, looking good so far. Carefully putting it in the oil sideways, looked good pulling it out, go to stand it upright, and it was just barely off balance. I put a skewer down the middle to give it extra support, and then it stood. And after it cooled down for a bit, the meat firmed up even more, to the point where I removed the skewer and it still stayed up. Now that is a dinosaur chicken nugget. And maybe this will lead to more, because if there's one thing the history of evolution has taught us, is that life will not be contained. Life breaks free, it expands to new territories, and well, there it is. Now I'm standing here by myself, talking to myself. That's chaos theory.